Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel English Literature. Today we are going to talk about three dissenters. And who are dissenters? Dissenters are those who dare to say I disagree. Who dare to say no to the conventional customs, rules, religion, regulations. So those are the dissenters. And today in colonial America, we'll talk about three dissenters: Roger Williams, Annie Hutchinson, and Thomas Morton. Maybe it will take two videos to complete it. At first, we'll talk about Roger Williams. Roger Williams, most probably, who was born between 1603 to 1604 or 6. And his father was James Williams and his mother was Alice Pemberton. His father was a merchant. Now, in 1670, you can have a look at Roger Williams. Quite like Warren Hastings, I think. Actually, they all had same type of hairstyle or you can say false hair, wig. Anyway, that was the style of that time. In 1617, he met Sir Edward Coke, a legal thinker and advocate. Coke has a great influence on Roger. Coke was also impressed by his sharp intellect, of Roger, and helped him in his education. Now, in 1627, Roger graduated from Cambridge University and he then became involved in the Reformation of the church. So, it is very important to find that Roger Williams had something within him that he wanted Reformation. It is very prominent and obvious that he did not want to follow the same track, the same flow. He wanted Reformation. And they are like the seed of his rebellion, his being a dissenter. Now, William Laud, the Archbishop of Church of England under King Charles I, I have talked about William Laud when we talk about Puritanism and why the Puritan fathers came here, how was the reign of Charles I and William Laud. Okay, in the chronology of events, we have discussed about William Laud, Charles I and their staunch support of Catholicism and their torture and everything upon the Protestant. So the Protestant have to flee in the new land. And so they pursued him out of England to get rid of Roger, the nuisance. Now in 1631, Roger arrived in Boston along with his wife Mary. And for his intellectual capabilities and great acumen at first, he was welcomed by the Massachusetts-based settlers. So at the very beginning, he was welcomed by the settlers without knowing that how much devastating or vulnerable he might appear later. So we have already talked about that he has great intellectual capabilities. That's why Edward Coke also was impressed by his intellectuality, and the Massachusetts-based settler also think that okay, we will get some intellectual person among us and it will be helpful. But soon their illusion or delusion, whatever you say, got broken, and he proved very outspoken. He had an outspoken voice, and another point was not only he was outspoken, but he was also sympathetic towards the natives, the aboriginal people. That's why became the cause of their headache. So at the one point, he was very outspoken. He did not dare to say the truth. And on the other hand, he was sympathetic to the native people. He fought for their right. So these were the two reasons for his being just excommunicated from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He was an English-born American Puritan who founded the colony of Rhode Island and the first Baptist church in America. So he was famous for these things. You have to keep in mind. The Rhode Island was formed by Roger Williams, and he also first Baptist church in America was founded by him. He wanted a fair dealing with Native Americans. And what does it mean by fair dealing? That you will take my land, okay, it's Okay, take my land, but give me sufficient amount of money. That is a fair dealing. The natives' land are taken by the settlers, but they are sorry, they are just oppressed, they are just suppressed, they are just cheated. But Roger Williams wanted fair dealing. So he got into the class with the settlers, the Puritan fathers. He said Native Americans should be properly paid in terms of the land, and they should not be cheated by the settlers. He also believed in the complete religious freedom. So number one was his sympathetic attitude towards the native people, and number two was the complete believing in a complete religious freedom. He believed that religion must be free. One's practice of religion or one's ideology centering religion must be his or her own opinion, and it must be free. Any government or religious organization should not force or coerce anything else on that individual person's individual rituals or belief. And his ideas became the cause of Puritan fathers' anxiety. Now he was expelled by the Puritan leaders from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He purchased land from the Narragansett tribes. It is an aboriginal native tribes. He purchased land in 1636 and founded a new colony in Rhode Island, which became the shelter for other dissidents who were either exiled or who left the first Puritan settlement. Even Annie Hutchinson will found later, she will also join the Rhode Island. And there everyone had religious freedom in that Rhode Island. In 1632, he published a treatise, the name A Key into the Language of America, a dictionary and cultural guide. So this is his magnum opus work. And by the language of America, he did not mean the language of colonialists or the language of the settlers. By the language, he also means the language of the native people. Here you can go through this excerpt. The key refers to the efforts to understand another language and culture. So he gave importance and reinforcement on the fact that the settlers must try to understand the Aboriginal people's culture, their language, their lifestyle, and must be sympathetic and truthful, honest towards them. They should not just deprive them because they have power, they have more intellectual capabilities, because they are already from a civilized nation, then they have own written language, literature. So that does not mean that they should deprive and oppress the Aboriginal peoples. A little key may open a box where lies a bunch of keys. With this, I have entered into the secret of those countries, wherever English dwell about 200 miles. Between the French and Dutch plantations, for want of this, I know what gross mistakes myself and others have run into. So, I just read a little, you can go through the other part, and you'll understand that he wants to know what the Aboriginal peoples want to say to them, what are their condition. He does not feel like that I am the colonialist and I am the superior, I am the supreme, so there is no opinion of you. He wants to know the key. What is the key? Key is the language. How can we come to know about other people? Other people means other language people. If I want to talk with a with a person with other language, I have to know about their language, their culture. In that case, I can be able to know about the person. Otherwise, it is not possible. So, language is a vital key to know about the person, to communicate with the person. And Roger Williams gave importance on that key because he wanted to know about the Aboriginal people. He is different from the other settlers, and this difference, this unique quality within him, this conscience made him a dissenter. Now this book reveals the generous and open-mindedness of writers who are interested in others' culture. The Bloody Tenet of Persecution. It is another book by Roger Williams. It is again controversial pamphlet. Whatever he will say will be controversial because they are not in interest, not in linear road of interest with the Puritan fathers. They did not. His words did not just support the religious fathers' view. So whatever he said in respect of the Aboriginal people or in respect of the free religion, that will be controversial because his words did not bolster the Puritan fathers' opinion or motivations or motives. Here Williams insisted that the Massachusetts Bay Colony Charter itself is invalid. Oh, what a great word he said. Massachusetts Bay Colony Charter itself is invalid because a Christian king has no right over the hidden landscape. Now, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Puritans settled and they started their own reign and their own domination. But he is saying that they had no right. Massachusetts Bay Colony belongs to the American people. And if the settlers have to stay, they can stay. But they had no right to prove their domination over the Aboriginal people. For him, Christianity had to be free of secular interests. It is written in a dialogue form, dialogue between truth and peace. He pleaded for the liberty of conscience as a natural right. Okay. So you understand this point, what dangerous thing he said. That the charter that was provided to the Puritans who settled in the Massachusetts Bay Colony are totally invalid. So whatever they claim is invalid. His other two pamphlets, Christening Make No Christians. From the very name you can understand what will be there. It is again a controversial pamphlet. And the Hurling Ministry None of Christ. So all these names of the pamphlet just indicate his rebellious attitudes to the staunch Puritanism and their power-mongery or their domination over the common native people. In these pieces, he theorized about the formation of a truly consent-based religious community. And he opined that no religious community will be race or culture-based. Yes, even you can imagine that how modern he was, how reasonable he was. That no religious community, even nowadays, even 21st century, in post-modern era, this conformity, this bigotry is the most dominant power of our society. And he, in that time, in that scenario, is telling that no religious community will be race or culture based. You can imagine. There will be no physical violence, mental coercion or social suppression that is going every day. They are saying against it, but it is the most supreme power of any political and religious society or any state or any country. The power struggle, the strategy of politicians, the strategy of the power mongers, state oppression, state apparatus. These are the state apparatus, ideological or non-ideological. But physical violence, mental coercion, social suppression are the state apparatus of every nation, every community, and it is true for even today. And human consciousness and free will should be valued over everything. So just salute for Roger Williams and for his opinions and for his voice. Now another dissenting figure is Thomas Morton, whose famous book is New English Cannan, 1637. Now this is Thomas Morton. He was born in Devon, 1579. 1590, Morton studied law at London's Clifford Inn. 1622, Morton sailed for America. But one thing you have noticed, that Thomas Morton and Roger Williams, they both are related to law. They know about legal procedure, customs. 1622, Morton sailed for America but came back the next year. In 1624, he again returned to Massachusetts Bay Colony. Now, he is a radical thinker, like Roger Williams. He distanced himself from the fanatics and bigotry and the colonists' right to annex native lands without adequate monetary compensation. So you can understand, the same voice we find in Morton and the same voice we find in Morton and Roger. They are demanding adequate monetary compensation for the native, and they both belong to Massachusetts Bay Colony. So the center or epicenter of corruption started in Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Puritans. So any religious sect, any sect who hold the power, they are the breeding ground of corruption. Even it may be Catholicism or Puritanism or any religiosism, any country. Those who accumulate power, those who are in the epicenter of power, they always tend to go to corruption. I think it is true. He satirizes both the Pilgrims of Plymouth and the Puritans of Massachusetts. So we know that Pilgrims first came in Plymouth Bay Colony, 101 Pilgrim along with William Bradford. They came and settled in Plymouth Bay Colony, and then Winthrop, with the leadership of Winthrop in 1630, Puritans came and they settled in Massachusetts Bay Colony. And for this reason, he became the enemy of Plymouth Pilgrims and the Puritans of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Double-edged sword. His book, that is the book we have talked just at the very beginning, New English Cannan. This book describes the flora and fauna of the land and the friendly nature of the Indians, their lifestyle, their customs, and it is an invaluable record of that time. The later writers, the later pamphleteers or later colonists, what is the difference between colonist and colonialist? Sometimes I just get confused. Colonist and colonialist. Sometimes maybe I also sometimes do some mistake, I pronounce colonialist. But colonists are those who settle there. They are the colonists, those who set up the colony. And colonialists are those who support the sect of or the creed of colonialism. Is it clear? Colonist and colonialist. Now William Bradford, in his Of Plymouth Plantation, he accuses Morton of teaching the Indians the use of guns and gunpowder. So William Bradford and then the next person who came with the Puritans, Winthrop. Okay, I just forgot them. Winthrop. They were staunch Puritans, and they did not support Morton, Roger Williams, or Annie Hutchinson. When we talk about Annie Hutchinson, we will find that how much these Puritan fathers can go to torture a woman, even a pregnant woman, and how much they can go to prove their superiority, to hold their power. Now, there is an incident, that is Maple incident. Maple incident instigated the situation to such an extent that Morton was forced to retire from the land. Now, Puritanism, even when we talk about English history, and you will find that in the reign of Puritanism, Oliver Cromwell, theatre was banned. There should be no entertainment. Everyone will make a grumpy face and live like this. Okay, so but what did Morton do? Morton just arranged a maple merriment. In 1627, in Plymouth Plantation, Thomas Morton decided to show the new world how to celebrate. The Puritan settlers did not like any intimacy with the natives, and they are strict in not celebrating any type of festival. What happened? What was the attitude of the Puritans to the natives? The Puritans think we are superior, we are just the sons and daughters of God. God just put them here and there, and those who are the natives, they are just nothing anyway, and we are given the heavy duty in our both shoulders to rescue them from their hellish condition, from their damnation. We are here for their salvation. So this type of attitude was the dominant ideology of Puritan fathers or Pilgrim's father, whatever you say. But Roger Williams and Thomas Morton was totally opposite of this view, and they are the dissenters. So the Puritan fathers did not want that any settlers will come in close contact with the natives. Okay, then they will be just get impure if they come in touch with the native people. But Thomas Morton was celebrating maple merriment with the natives. He just spread the news, collect the people, and they all gathered. There was wine at Marymount. Morton erected 80 feet high pine. It become Pune. That's why I get confused. 80 feet high pine maple, and invited the natives to join in the merriment. He distributed wine among the natives and started enjoying himself with the natives. How dare he! Showing them various amusing ways of revelry, making jokes and funny things. But their exuberance was cut short. By whom? By Miles Sandwich. Miles Sandwich and America's first vice squad. They came and just dissipated the whole merriment process. Now Bradford criticizes Morton's behavior as inappropriate. We know that Bradford and Winthrop are there, the staunch Puritan fathers, to say no. The beastly practices of the mad Bacchanalians. This incident inspired Nathaniel Hawthorne, and that the writer is there to write from this, taken inspiration from these pieces, from this incident, and write something. The Maple of Merriment. Nathaniel Hawthorne's short story, The Maple of Merriment, is based on Thomas Morton. You know what is the benefit of being a writer? Even there is something chaos is going on, everyone is involved in that chaos. The writer can get inspiration of the incident and can give it an artistic form, and that it will be immortal in that way. Now Morton was deported for trial in England. He was forced to return to England in a mortifying state. Mortifying. No, it is not possible till death. But for insufficient proof, Morton could not be punished, and he returned to New England. Infuriated Pilgrim's father burned his house and deported him again for trial. He started a lawsuit. We know that he is well acquainted with legal procedures against the Puritans of Massachusetts Bay. He returned to New England in 1643, but it was a great mistake on his part, because he shouldn't be so stubborn, I think, because he is getting aged and he is feeble and he is alone, because dissenters are always alone. Dissenters are always lonely, because very few dare to be dissenters. Very few want to welcome this type of fate. He was arrested and put in prison. He was released in 1645. He was old and ill. He died 2 years later in York. Now, both Thomas Morton and Robert Williams are sympathetic and friendly towards Native Americans. They were fascinated by the humility and simplicity of Native American life. They had no self-interest. Their life was not regulated in self-interest. But Bradford and Winthrop disliked the natives as savage barbarians. So who are the dissenters of God and who are not? They knows. They told that we are from God, and they told that God loves every people. But they cannot. But the dissenters of God cannot love every people. Okay. So in next video we will talk about Annie Hutchinson because it will take time. Thank you.